What's going on, guys? Welcome to the stream. Sorry we are a little bit late today, but we are just checking out some stocks that we're looking at, and we have the SPY kind of up today in pre-market, looking like it's going to go to that all-time high today, possibly, but it is starting to pull back, getting a little bit slow today at open. We have AMC actually falling off, falling below that $60 resistance that we hit off of yesterday, and really falling down, hitting 55 today at open. Not looking good so far. We have Tesla actually getting some green and moving to the upside. So overall, it seems like a pretty nice day to start off so far.
Absolutely. And it's awesome to start the day with the SPY breaking all-time highs again for what is it, like the third or fourth time this week. It's been definitely pretty solid so far. We have some awesome momentum with Tesla. They've been slowly creeping up all morning, and now they're like kind of breaking out. So make sure you definitely keep an eye on them. DraftKings has a lot of potential too. They're breaking out. Baba, of course, is doing amazing. Tom, I know you called this one out a little while ago, and it's just been doing so well. So Baba is breaking out, and even though it already popped up a lot already over the past week, I think over the next couple weeks, it still has a lot more potential.
Yeah, I think so too. And like you said, it has a lot of potential. It's really looking strong this morning, and it's running up very, very nicely, starting to really get up there, and it's moving very nicely actually off those bottom supports. And I'm glad that we held it. It's one of those stocks that it was consolidating down there for quite a while, and people like to get pretty worried whenever they're consolidating like that, but it did hold those supports pretty well and ended up paying off for us, moving very nicely to the upside.
You know it. And then we even have Palantir popping up. We have Sean talking about Palantir. It's looking pretty good. It has an amazing candle right at open. Yeah, truly an amazing candle. It's breaking above that resistance from yesterday, right at like $26.72 or so. So definitely keep an eye on Palantir. They've had so much like buying activity come in lately where obviously it's great for the stock, but it's also been helping other tech stocks. And I'm glad to finally see them, start to break out, because the past couple months have been brutal for not only Palantir, but a lot of other growth stocks. Baba is kind of in that basket, you can say. Zoom, stocks like that. Even JD's popping up pretty well. Check out that one.
Yeah, JD, let's go check it out. One of those Chinese stocks going up again, kind of like Baba today. And it's nice to see these stocks starting to recover because they got beat down the past year. And JD looks really solid, actually, up to that resistance up there around $79, which is a few points away. And honestly, this looks like a pretty good breakout trade, kind of like what we've been seeing all week with these growth stocks starting to break out. JD isn't necessarily like a high growth stock or anything like that, but they're definitely a volatile stock that people love to buy. And I think with it being more of like a Chinese stock, it's moving kind of like Baba.
All right. So thank you, Sean, Jorge, Justin, Hunter, Kathy, Slick, Dang. I'm Fierce. Thank you guys so much for joining the stream this morning. Vicky, too. Thank you guys so much for joining. Hitting the like button really, really helps us, and we'd really appreciate it. But thank you guys so much for joining. And we have Kathy saying, good morning. Looking at Enphase. Has a pretty good run from lows. Do you think it can run some more in the next month? The options are expensive. So those options, they definitely are pretty expensive. Looking at Enphase, they did have a really big run up over the past couple weeks. And while this is awesome, personally, I don't feel that it's worth the risk to buy some call options at this point. A lot of the premiums on these calls already popped a ton. And the thing is it definitely can continue to run, but the major question is it worth the risk? For me, the answer is no. However, Enphase is one of those stocks that I like for the long term. They're in an amazing sector, and they're a pretty solid company overall. So what you can do is maybe buy some shares instead, and you might not make as much as if you were to buy options, but at least if Enphase falls down, you have those shares that you can hold on to for a couple months or a couple years, and you should still end up in the green.
Yeah, for sure. I think that would be an amazing thing to see. And honestly, the shares, I think, would be a lot smarter, like you said. There is that resistance there at 180. And, like you said, it's just up so much that we might start to pull back a little bit, or we've seen it in the past even where it just consolidated for like a month and traded between like a small range or something, and it might do that. Who knows? It might also just continue to break out, but like Mike said, you just have to kind of calculate the risk here. If you would have been getting in down here around like 140 or something, there was a lot more growth potential there, but now we're all the way up to like 180, already 40 points above like that key support that we were sitting at for like a couple of weeks. So it seems like we're finally getting that huge breakout, and I would just be very cautious, kind of like you said, Mike, with it, because whenever you're looking at these stocks, it's easy to see some high momentum and to just start hopping in. But I think it's very smart, like you said, to maybe grab shares to kind of calculate that risk, because end phase could just start to come down, like you said, and it definitely has some potential to, with how much it's been going up lately. But hopefully that momentum just continues.
Alrighty, so we have Dang saying, good morning, apes ready to do what apes do. What's going on with the AMC, Tom? I know everyone loves to talk about AMC and the apes and stuff like that. So what do we have moving?
Yeah, I don't know. I guess he's talking about the apes need to get in and buy it up today or something. But man, it's not looking good so far. AMC is going down. I'm not sure if the apes are selling out or what's going on here. But on the daily, it's starting to look pretty bad here, looking like it's selling off. On the daily chart, it actually failed to kind of get back to those all-time highs there. And, I'm honestly getting pretty worried about this one, guys. I'm just being honest here. I think that this one might have some potential to start to, come back down possibly. So just be a little careful with it, especially if you're holding shares or anything of it above like $60 or anything like that. If you're in with a super high average, like I would say anything like 55 and higher could be a pretty bad scenario if it starts to go down. So just be a little careful. It doesn't mean it's gonna definitely tank off or anything, but just keep in mind that it's been up a lot and it probably will start to go down as we start to go along over the next couple months. But just keep in mind that these stocks, they can't go up forever with that type of momentum. And with everybody getting in the past, it really drove that price up. But right now that momentum's starting to really die off, and people are starting to look at other stocks like Wish and so other stocks like that. And Wish was having a pretty good day yesterday and is kind of pulling back today now as well.
All right, then we have Raphael saying, good morning, my SPCE 29 strike call is looking nice. I bet it is.
Yeah, that must be up a lot.
SPCE is sitting at like $47 right now, and it just exploded in pre-market. It's up like 16%. And not only is the stock popping up, but IV is too. So you're sitting really nice on that deep in the money call. So awesome job, Raphael. Then we have Vicky saying, good morning, Teledoc, Twitter, Fastly, please. Let's check them out, Tom. First one, TDOC. All right, TDOC. It actually looks pretty good. I'm actually glad Vicky brought this one up. I might sell puts on this one, but I think it looks pretty good overall for like maybe a couple month hold. They do have some resistance right around 170. Yeah, it's a pretty big resistance right at 170. So just watch out for that.
Yeah, and we're actually getting pretty close to that. So be careful of that as we start to go up. But looks like a very nice recovery play so far. And yeah, Vicky, nice one there. You always call out some pretty good stocks, it seems like. Not always, but a lot of times it's in pretty good setups. And man, I'll be honest, some of these swings are looking pretty decent here. Teledoc reminds me of like one of those growth stocks that are recovering up nicely. So overall, it looks very like a very nice setup, at least for like a swing, especially for like the next couple months. Anything can happen in the next like week or two, but I think for like the next couple months to a few months, it has a pretty solid chance of recovering, possibly back up to that resistance around 200 or even higher around 225.
All righty, and then we have Twitter with the next one. Twitter has been doing so well over the past couple weeks. It really has a big support at $60, and since that support, it actually ran all the way up to resistance at like 68, 69 area. It's been exploding over the past couple days. The call premiums are kind of inflated now. This is just a no play for me because just tech in general, it has a lot of upwards momentum, which is great. But in my opinion, Twitter's a little bit overextended to the upside right now. And at the same time, I don't necessarily want to buy puts on it. So it's just going to be a neutral for me.
Yeah, I would say I'm more neutral on it now as well. and it was moving up very nicely, but it's almost filled that gap, and who knows where it can go from here. It could definitely keep going, but I would think it would start to consolidate and maybe move back down eventually. But I would say that, Twitter was looking really nice, but we just kind of, if you weren't in from like around that $60 area, you kind of missed the move now. It's already had like 3 or 4 pretty solid days of like 3%ers. So overall, it's been running up very nicely. And I would say right now it's kind of due to consolidate or maybe just kind of go a little flat.
All right. And then we have Vicky with FSLY, Fastly. So this one, it tried to run up yesterday, but it kind of got rejected. It is bouncing off support at 59. Resistance at like 61.40, you can say. It's trending up slightly in just the movement right now. Yeah, it's hard to tell because it's not really moving too much at open. It has potential, and honestly, the setup kind of reminds me about Twitter, how it like has this I don't know, I don't want to say gap fill setup because it already filled the gap, but I don't know, it just has a pretty similar setup to Twitter, which is a good sign. So yeah, it's hard to say because they're not really moving right now.
Yeah, and it kind of is in like a small like wedge pattern here on the daily, and it started to break out of that yesterday whenever it started to run up, and I would honestly kind of look at this one to maybe continue running up today. I think it could have some potential, and it is holding up above some supports and some SMAs, and I would think that it could have some potential, like I said, to possibly keep going up, and I really like how it broke out of that wedge. It kind of looked pretty nice, but keep in mind the movement yesterday could have been the good movement out of the wedge. So we might not see continued movement today. We'll just have to see what ends up happening. But I would say with it breaking out of the wedge, it definitely has a chance.
All righty. And then let's see. We have Corbin saying, morning, guys. What is your exit strategy with the put? So if you're referring to the premium ones from yesterday, really it's just based on momentum and, just like support and resistance and stuff like that. We'll be eyeing it out, and we'll keep everyone updated for when that position needs to be updated. But Tom, we can't look away from Bobo right now. This thing is exploding right now. It's just breaking new highs. This thing looks pretty crazy, actually.
Yeah, it is. I mean, man, it's running up so much. I don't know what China did to Baba now. They must have took away all the regulations or something. But man, this is insane. The recovery on Baba is looking really nice, and its movement off the SMAs, it had a key level in pre-market around 222. And honestly, I did not think that it was going to be able to break that today. But man, we saw that momentum just fly right up through that. Now we're almost up to 224, and it looks like it could possibly still run at least for a little while here. But man, we are starting to move up very nicely from that bottom level on Baba. And overall, it's just a very nice trade here. Good play so far, and we're still holding the second half. So hopefully it can keep going up for us.
There we go. And then we have JB01 asking about the flagship ARK fund, ARKK. So this one's been doing pretty good lately with the way Tesla's moving and just the way growth has been recovering. Let's see. So it has like a resistance right around 130 and a big support at 110. So it is getting pretty close to that resistance at 130. But ARK moves a little bit differently than most stocks. While, it does respect support and resistance lines, it's not the same. It's just different because, the ARK ETF is literally just like a mixture of like a bunch of different stocks like Tesla, Zoom, DraftKings, and a bunch of other ones. So it's just like a unique thing to trade. Overall, I like it, but it is really volatile. And if you invest in it, you definitely have to be prepared for that volatility.
Yeah, I think that's one of the big things is that, like you said, you have to be prepared. You have to get time, I think, on ARKK, unless you're trading it for like a quick breakout trade or something like that. But as of right now, we're kind of getting close to a lot of these resistances, and I would maybe like look for it to consolidate or something like that, especially like with all these growth stocks almost having the same setup. Almost all of them are kind of getting up to those resistances right now. A couple of the setups obviously are different and they're breaking out, but for the most part, generally, most of the growth stocks have been just running up off that bottom support ever since May 11th, and it's just been very nice since that day. And I would definitely look for it to possibly consolidate or just like go flat or something like that, because it's just been straight up, and it could keep going straight up, but I would just think that there could be some consolidation. So just get some time. ARKK is a really nice fund. I think that getting shares of this one for the long run is a really smart thing to do. I think ARKK, ARKG, and ARKXs are some of my favorite ETFs out there.
All righty. And then let's see. Oops, give me 1 second. Oh, that's what I wanted to talk about, Tom. These bank stocks. Like, I know I kind of feel bad for everyone who's trading bank stocks yesterday because they had that stress test. And, let's say we look at, I don't know, JP Morgan first. It popped up a lot in after hours, and then at open, it tanked down, and now it's coming right back up. And then WFC even has a crazier chart where it popped up in after hours, tanked that open. Now it's coming back up. So lots of chop with these bank stocks, but they're trending up now. And it's hard to say. It's a very unique situation because they sold off so much, like, what was it, 2 weeks ago or so, and now they're like slowly bouncing back up. So I'm just like very like neutral / slightly bullish with these bank stocks right now.
Yeah, that's how I would be as well. And it's kind of funny, we were saying yesterday it might have been more of like an earnings play or something like that, and it ended up playing out similar to an earnings play. We can see the IV even tanked down today at open, and it just ended up being a very bad move for a lot of those bank stocks. Like you said, a lot of them flew up in after hours and then tanked down today at open. So it's definitely a crazy move, and like we said, it was almost going to be like just have movement similar to an earnings play, and it kind of had that.
All righty. And then with the next comment, we have, let's see, Mike C saying, what cybersecurity ETFs would you recommend? So I've heard good things about IHAK. I'm not sure if you ever heard of that one, but it's the iShares cybersecurity ETF. To be honest, I haven't looked too deep into any ETFs specifically focusing on cybersecurity, but I have heard good things about IHAK. BUG is also another one. But yeah, I like IHAK, but I'm not a specialist in cybersecurity ETFs. So definitely do your extra due diligence with that. ABC is saying, how's Run? RUN? Yeah, Tom, how's Run? I know you were watching this one.
Yeah, it was doing really good earlier in the week, having a pretty nice breakout. Started to actually come down yesterday, and then today it's just kind of consolidating between the range there. Today it's actually looking pretty nice. Like it started to run up at open. It might be having some consolidation now, but man, it was definitely looking nice earlier in the week. I would say it just kind of had a consolidation day yesterday, kind of like we saw with a lot of stocks. I saw like Zoom, DraftKings, and a few of the other ones actually having a red day yesterday. So it ended up not being the best day yesterday for some of those growth stocks, but it does look like that it's recovering back up today, which is very nice. And on the daily chart, it still looks pretty nice, but I would say it's like a lot of these other growth stocks. They're kind of running up, and they're running up straight into these resistances, and they are up a lot from the bottom. The bottom's around 38. They're all the way up. They hit highs around 57, so they went up quite a bit. And just keep in mind, like I said, they're running up into these resistances right now. So like I said, it might take some consolidation, or it might go flat for a while before it starts to go up. And I think it's going to be like that with a lot of growth stocks now, not just RUN. I think that we'll start to see that honestly across the board.
Tom, what's going on with my stock Zoom? It's been selling off the past 2 days.
Yeah, it looks like it's just having that type of consolidation again, but the good news is that it's not falling off a lot yet. It almost reminds me of down here, how it was just kind of consolidating for a couple weeks around that 320 to like 330 range. It was just like sitting between there for a couple weeks and then really started to explode out. And I would maybe think that that's what's happening here.
All right. Well, I'm not going to get too worried yet, but yeah, I guess we'll call it just some normal market movement. But then we have, let's see, Dean saying, can you go to SPCE? This one's popping. All right, it's pulling back a little bit. It is at a support level at 46, but it also has another support at 45. Resistance at, you can see like 47.50, and then the major resistance is at 49.50.
Yeah, I agree. That's going to be the big level to look for, is that 49.50. And just intraday today, I would say it doesn't look too good, but keep in mind, I don't know what happened in pre-market today, but man, that was a good explosion. I'm definitely going to look into this one really quick and see, what ended up going on here. But that explosion was pretty strong. And whenever we see that a lot, sometimes at open, the stocks end up falling, kind of like what we're seeing now. But just keep in mind, even though we're falling, it's still up 14% on the day.
Absolutely. And then I'm just trying to see what's moving. We have DraftKings popping up pretty well, up around 1.5%. Riot is tanking. FedEx is tanking off of earnings. Nike is exploding, actually. They're up like almost 15% on their earnings. They crushed it. What else we have moving?
Wow, hey,
Wells
I got the
Fargo.
news on SPCE actually. Virgin Galactic was cleared by the FAA to finally fly customers into space. Since their May 22 test flight was successful and performed well against a lot of their objectives, they were given the approval by the FAA there to finally get passengers out there into space, and it's gonna give some of those billionaires some that freedom to finally get out there into space. And apparently Jeff Bezos is going to be going to space as well. So it seems like that overall Virgin Galactic is just getting a lot of good news off of that FAA clearance, and it seems like that they can finally start making money off of those test flights. So it seems like a pretty good move here fundamentally, and a good move on the chart. So that's honestly a nice thing to hear, that they might finally start to be bringing in those profits finally.
All righty. Then we have Roberto saying, good morning. Thoughts on MU? Let's check it out. MU is looking pretty good. It's close to its high of day. It's up around 1.5%. I don't love it for a day trade right now. I think the best way to go is shares. They also have earnings pretty soon. To be honest, it's not my favorite setup in the world, but it's definitely not bad. I just think it's like at this point, it's just more of like a play to like average into for like long term with shares.
Yeah, I would say so as well. And Mike, we got to check this out on my chart. This is so funny. I have some drawings from like over a year ago on here that I was just about to clear them all. And look at this. I drew a circle all the way down here at $51 a share. And somehow, for some reason, I wrote, "We are now here." I guess for somebody in the Discord or something I was helping, but man, that could have been a good buying opportunity down there for some shares right before that rise up. I think I ended up getting into it right around there, and it probably sold out pretty quick, somewhere around 60 probably. And man, that was an insane move though there that ended up happening. And whoever I was helping there, I hope they ended up grabbing shares, because that could have been a pretty good move there.
You know it.
That's funny though, over a year old drawing.
Yeah, true. Then we have PC saying Tesla to 700 today, question mark. Let's see. Right now it's sitting at like 685. Let's see. Let me see what the probabilities look like. Give me a second. He said 700. There's about a 20% chance of that happening according to the options chain. So it's possible. We all know how Tesla is, but unlikely.
By what date?
Today.
Oh, by the end of today, it still has that high of a chance just today?
Yeah, you know how volatile Tesla is.
Yeah, I know. I just figured I still thought that it would be a little lower than that, figuring that it was going down today at open. But yeah, I mean, I'm with you. It's definitely volatile, and man, that's going to be crazy. I don't think it'll hit 700, but that would be kind of nuts if it did.
Oh yeah, and then with the next comment, we have Matthew asking about the NASDAQ. Let's check it out. So the NASDAQ is down a little bit today. Yeah, it's down a little bit today. Let me just look at a couple different things. Give me a second. Yeah, we have Microsoft coming down, which is good. QQQ coming down. I mean, I don't really see like it tanking. It just kind of looks like a normal pullback to me, especially after this awesome week the market had. So yeah, I mean, it is definitely coming down a little bit. I'm trying to find the next support, sitting right around like you could say like a little above 349, like maybe like 349.20, something like that.
Yeah, I see one also right around there. That's definitely the level I would be looking at today as well. And I would just say that with the NASDAQ, just be a little careful. We're seeing some of those growth stocks kind of come down a little bit. So just keep in mind that could be part of the reason why the NASDAQ is starting to fall off a little bit. But overall, it seemed like tech stocks were doing pretty decent so far, at least a few minutes ago. So hopefully the NASDAQ can start to turn around.
All righty. And then we have Sean winning the WFC lottery. There we go. I remember he was talking about getting some calls yesterday right before that stress test, and it looks like he got them. So there we go, Sean. We have Kathy saying Netflix is running. Support and resistance, please. Let's check it out. All right, so we have resistance at like 533. You have a little bit of support at like 528, but the major ones at like you say like 525. To be honest, I don't like this setup. The way the Nasdaq's coming down, it looks like it's a little overextended on the daily too. So yeah, it's definitely not my favorite setup.
Yeah, and it's starting to fill that gap, and it's already had a lot of the move already. I think it would have been good to get in somewhere around 500, but where we are now, I think we're just missing a lot of that move already.
All right, and then what do we have? Microsoft looks like it's coming down a decent amount, which is awesome. QQQ coming down. All right, so there we go. Trying to see what else is moving. We have AMC tanking, WFC popping. What is this? Netflix tanking a little bit. How's Tesla doing? Tesla, yeah, tanking a little bit. So we're seeing some mixed movement in the market today. Palantir's pulling back. My stocks, Zoom's pulling back. Viacom's pulling back. Tilray's pulling back. So, yeah, definitely a pullback today, at least right now. Then we have, let's see, Mike asking, what are our thoughts on Workhorse? Workhorse pulling back right now. Tom, do you have any levels for us?
Yeah, I mean, Workhorse is looking pretty good. It's coming down to that low of yesterday. It's actually right there right now on the 5-minute and the 1-minute chart, right around like 15-17, 15-15, you could say, on the 1 minute. But yeah, keep in mind that it looks like it's selling off today pretty hard. I would think it might break through this level and go to the downside. If that does end up happening, I see another decent support at around 15 even. But as far as like moving down today, it's already down 2%. And it like I said, it looks like it's starting to sell off a little bit. I know Workhorse has been looking pretty good though for like a possible move up. There's a huge support on the daily around 1330. So definitely look out for that. That one's definitely the more solid area to watch. And I would think that we could start to move up with this one over the next like week or two, but who knows how much downward movement we're going to have like over the next couple days.
For sure. So it looks like, yeah, even Baba's pulling back a little bit. All right. So then let's see. With the next comment, we have Adrian saying, I see Tesla coming back to 675 today. Yeah, I mean, it's definitely possible. Let me see what the probability looks like according to the options chain. Looks like you could say about 30% or so, but we've seen Tesla do some crazy things. Looks like there is, yeah, I mean, support's right at 675. So it's definitely possible. And yeah, definitely possible.
Yeah, I could see it maybe hitting 675. That would be it's 680 seems like it's a pretty good support right now, so maybe it'll have problems getting below that.
True that. And then we have James saying, what do you think about AMC? So it's one of the most volatile stocks on the market right now. I'll let you answer this one first, Tom.
Yeah, AMC, it's right now it's not my favorite. I've liked it in the past, like on the way up, it was definitely a fun stock to trade, fun momentum play, but I don't think it's a long-term hold. I don't think that anybody should be swinging it or anything like that. It's definitely a risky stock. It's having a lot of problems getting up here, posting lower highs, and I just personally have a feeling like it's going to start coming back down. And just keep in mind, everybody says this thing's going to hit 500 a share, 1,000 a share. I've seen people say 10,000 for sure and all this stuff. And man, I'm just going to be honest with you guys. It ain't going to happen. So just keep in mind, like Hunter came out and calculated it and said that it would be like half the world's GDP or even more than the world's GDP if it hit 10,000. So it would be a very crazy valuation. And while I like the stock and I hope it keeps going up and has good momentum, there's no way it's going to do what some of these people say. And I think it's a stock all about timing. You have to time this one perfect. Like you have to get it perfectly on support and then sell it perfectly at resistance and stuff like that. If you don't, the volatility will just eat you up.
Yeah. So another thing too is, especially if you're playing options on this, you have to be so careful because the implied volatility is 200%. So you're going to be overpaying for some options. And even if you predict the right direction, you can still lose. So it's just, you have to be very careful with it. If you do like it, shares would probably be the better way, but just try not to get caught up in the hype. Like we have people, like some people in the YouTube comments saying it's going to go to 100,000 a share, which extremely unlikely. So just keep in mind. And then we have Hunter saying, thank you. If it hit 100,000, it would be half of the global GDP. People were saying 500K a share. So yeah, you got to be careful with all this hype you see with it. I support the movement, but just try not to get caught up in these crazy price targets. And then we have Corbin saying, I'm nervous about Palantir. I like it for
Ooh.
the long term. It is pulling back today. I mean, my stock Zoom's pulling back, and it's, it sucks sometimes, but when you have the huge run up that it's had for like the past couple of weeks, you just got to be prepared for these types of pullbacks. Ultimately, it is a healthy thing to see, a stock pull back. Palantir has had an amazing month so far, and this pullback isn't too drastic just yet. And I think we can say the same thing with Zoom. So it does suck, but so it's just how the market is sometimes.
Yeah, and actually looking at Palantir on the daily, you're right. This red candle looks like nothing actually compared to the movement that we've been seeing. So on the intraday chart, like on the 1 minute, the sell-off looks terrible, but whenever you go out and look at that daily, you can see it's actually not too bad. So hopefully it can kind of get some momentum, maybe hold some supports here and start to go back up. It kind of sucked that it failed to break out today. It actually broke above those highs of yesterday and was starting to really look good and then just turned it right around. So yeah, that does kind of suck. I get why it makes you nervous, but I would say for the longer run, it should be pretty good. And if you're trading like weekly options or something, then I would definitely be nervous. But as long as you have some time, I think you're pretty good.
All right. And then we have Jorge saying Unity is selling off hard right now. Let's check it out. Yeah, it's down around 3% or so. The next major support I see is like 106, you can say. Yeah, it's definitely at a pretty hard sell-off, and there actually is a little bit more support at like 110 area. But yeah, I'm trying to see if there's any like major catalysts with it. Nothing crazy that I'm seeing. I think it's just like the market in general.
Yeah, and like we said, we're seeing a lot of these stocks come right up to these resistances, and like back in March, Unity had a pretty solid resistance here, right around like the 115 level, and that's like right around where we hit again and came right down. So just be very careful as these stocks start to get up to these resistances, because we're seeing a lot of them hit these and then consolidate or end up falling. So just be really careful.
All righty. And then we have Mike saying Baba's going to go up again. It looks like it. It's with the market kind of holding it back. We have Baba roaring back up, bouncing pretty hard off that $222 support. So overall, it's a solid setup, and it was bound to pop up. We've been watching it for quite some time. It tried to run up on, what was that, June 1st, and it just slowly faded off, and now it's popping up again. So we're long overdue, and I'm glad to finally see it starting to pop. And, in the grand scheme of things, this is just a tiny pop. Like in the past, sometimes Baba moves up, $30 or $40. So, we're definitely have our eyes on this one.
Yeah, for sure. Like you said, it can move up even more than that. So definitely watch it. It's moving off the SMAs nicely as well. And I like that how you pointed out that 222 support from this morning. That was a really nice support that we just hit off of. So I think that looks like a pretty decent setup.
All right, so we have Russ and John talking about NOK, Tom. We haven't talked about this one in a while, but it's looking really good, actually, up around 7%. It's actually breaking $5.50 right now. I know we have a lot of people in the Discord who are who really like this stock, so I'd love to see when it has these huge green days. And I know a lot of people did a lot of research on it, so I do hope it pops up. I know that we have a lot of people holding it, but I'm even in the short term, it looks pretty good. So what do you think?
Yeah, I think it looks good in the short term more than anything. For the longer term, I have no idea. I think it could be pretty good with Nokia. I just, hopefully they can turn it around, and hopefully this 5G and 6G stuff that everyone talks about can kind of get them going again, because they've definitely been beaten down for the past few years. Whenever we look at like the Max Weekly, in 2008 and like the early 2000s, they were doing really good. But then they started, to obviously sell off over the past few years as like Apple and Samsung kind of took over. But who knows? It looks like that on the chart, on the weekly chart anyways, it looks like they're holding that $5 support very, very nicely. They're moving up off of that. And as long as they can hold $5, I think it'll be awesome. And I'm really happy to see them pouncing up above that. It makes the setup look so much better. And, down here at $4, it was looking pretty good off of that support as well. And it's just nice to see it like slowly going up and stair stepping up to these supports, especially after it had that crazy volatile move like with GME last year.
You know it. Yeah, it was and not even last year, only a couple
Oh
months
yeah,
ago.
yeah, sorry, yeah, a couple months ago.
For sure, for sure. And then we have WFC slowly, or I don't even want to say slowly anymore. It's really popping up. Sean, are you still holding calls on this? If you are, there we go. I mean, it looks really solid actually. MU is slowly moving up there. How's DraftKings? DraftKings, it pulled back a little bit. It's holding its ground though. So yeah, FSLR it looks like is running. Yeah, they're running pretty good, up just under 4%. So yeah, let's see what some of these other comments have to say. Let's see. So yeah, no other comments right now, guys. Let us know what stocks you're watching. Give Tom and I something to cover. But let's see what we have moving. Zoom trying to bounce. Palantir trying to bounce. Let's see what's moving in general. Looks like banks are moving pretty. Actually, yeah, banks are moving a good amount. But Nike looks like a big leader today. It's up huge. JD, Netflix. So yeah, stocks like that. What's going on with JD, Tom?
Yeah, JD's looking pretty nice. It was pulling back at open, it was running up very nicely with Baba. It actually looks just like Baba's setup, coming down and kind of consolidating a couple minutes ago and trying to run up again now. I think it looks like it can continue up again, kind of like I said, just like what Baba would do. But in the end, it looks like a very nice setup on the daily, especially. It looks pretty nice. And I think that there's some resistance up here around like $79 or $80. And we're still a few points away from there. So I think we could still see more movement.
Sounds good. And then let's check in on Home Depot. I know we were talking about this one so much back in, you could say like April and May, and they've just been pulling back a little bit. And I'm glad because the trend they were having was ridiculous. Like they'd be up literally every single day. So
Yeah,
it's
it
good
was
to
because it had to have
finally.
been because of that lumber. I think that lumber price went absolutely bananas. I could not believe like people were making all those memes showing like a car wreck, and then there'd be like a board of lumber in the back, and they would just say like, "Oh, I'm saving my wood, not the car," and all that stuff. Like
Yeah.
crazy stuff with wood going on. But Home Depot was really benefiting off of that, at least in the short run. But still, they're looking pretty decent, even though they're not up at those 345 highs anymore or like 340. It's still looking really good, and for the longer run, I still like them a lot. Whenever we look at like slash LBS, which is the lumber futures chart, you can really see how much lumber started to sell off here, and it's just gonna, I think, bring Home Depot maybe like back down to reality in the short term, but in the longer term, I think that they'll still be really, really good. It's just gonna depend on like how their earnings and stuff end up going, but I think that they'll have great earnings still, given that lumber prices are, even though they're not up as much as they were, they're still up year over year.
True that. And then we have Hunter saying cover LIVX. I'm making coffee and can't see it. LIVX, let's check it out. LIVX looks decent. It's up around 2.5% today. They do have earnings pretty soon. Looks like their next resistance is like 550. Support at like 435 area. So yeah, I mean they're just like in like a slow and steady uptrend, which is good. But that earnings will be pretty big in, what is it, a couple days? Yeah, a couple days.
Yeah, I think it could look pretty good. Oh, those earnings they do worry me though. That's the main worry there. But on the daily, I really like the setup here. It's moving well off the 100 SMA, off that support as well. And to me, it looks like it could get a pretty nice bounce back to the upside, possibly on the daily chart. If it does start to sell off, I think there's a pretty decent support there on like 530 or 435 or like 430, somewhere really close to there. So that's what I would look at. But man, it looks like a pretty decent setup here. And I don't know like what they do as a company, but it seems like a pretty decent setup back to the upside here.
All right. And then we have Justin saying, what do you guys think about MVIS for the short term and the long term? So I did not do a complete deep dive into their fundamentals and everything specifically for MVIS. So we'll just give like technicals for the long term, but even for the short term, they are making higher lows, which is good. They have a huge support at $15, and it's slowly getting to that area. IV is pretty low right now. Overall, it looks pretty good right now. I like it for like a dip buy actually. Trying to see if there's anything else. A little bit of resistance right around like $20 or so, but I think it looks pretty decent for a dip buy, especially how IV is low. And Like for the long term, if we can break above that resistance at like 25 or so, it should be really solid.
Yeah, I think it could be a decent dip buy as well, especially for the longer run. In the short term, it kind of looks like it could keep going down to me, but who knows if it holds a support, then it holds it. But I will say, like going forward, I have seen some weird news with them come out lately, so definitely do your research if you guys are going to trade it, because I have seen them in the headlines. I'm not sure if it was for movement, but I thought that it was for like some like weird catalyst going on. So just definitely do your research with this one.
All right. And then we have Sean saying, yep, still in on WFC, also in on AMC puts. Please don't club me. And then Hunter goes, uh-oh, off to the chopping block for you, Sean. I know a lot of people don't want to hear that with AMC, but Hunter, remember when we saw those AMC puts yesterday? What were those? I'm trying to find the strike and expiration for those things because it was a good amount of money. Let me look for this real quick. I know someone put a good amount into some AMC puts. I'm just trying to find the strike real quick. Yeah, give me 1 second, Tom.
Yep, for sure. I'm actually doing something as well, but
All right,
yeah, there's
cool.
definitely a lot of stuff going on today, this morning in the market. We can look at like the SPY. I wonder if it's still at those all-time highs. Like we need to finally get a solid breakout here, man. The market has been moving so flat every time it breaks out. It gives us like no opportunities.
All righty. So yeah, we have AMC moving. Let's see. He said the 54 or 55 strike for next week, I think. It was something like that either way. But either way, a lot of smart money put a lot of money into these things. And obviously that's not a good sign. But either way, just keep it on your radar. So yeah, okay. With the next comment, we have, let's see, Vicky saying edit and Z, please. All right, first one we have edit. It looks good for a dip buy. Yeah, it does look pretty good for a dip buy. Looking at the max weekly, I actually like this setup. It's making higher lows too, which is pretty solid. IV is mid-range, so shares will probably be the best way to go.
Yeah, for sure. I think that that would be the best way to go as well. It is up quite a bit the past like couple weeks, a couple months, but it looks like it could really start to recover if these growth stocks start to go up. And it doesn't seem like it's a growth stock, given that it says it's like medicine or something, but it definitely had the same type of movement there.
Here we go. And then with the next one, we have Z. Z, I like it like for like a slow and steady uptrend for like the next couple weeks or so. Overall, looks pretty good. And then with the next one, we have James saying SPCE to the moon. All right, let's check it out. SPCE, it's pulling back a little bit. What do you think, Tom?
Yeah, I think it looks really nice actually. Maybe for like a momentum play for the next couple days. For right now, I would definitely make it break that high of day around 49.50. I might even make it break $50 given what we're seeing, but it looks like it's just going to be very volatile today. It had that great news this morning that made them rocket up. And I'll be honest, ever since May 11th, the Palantir day that really turned all these growth stocks around, SPCE has just been straight up fire. I don't know what's been going on. You know, I know that they had this successful test flight around like May 20th and stuff that made them start to really break that gap and start to move up very nicely. And it just continued its ascent to the upside. I think it can definitely continue over the next few days. And it just seems like a very solid setup, especially with this great news that they keep getting. Like they're finally allowed to take passengers into space. So that's huge for them.
All righty. Then we have Andy saying thoughts on NVIDIA. Can it keep up the momentum until the stock split on July 20th? In my opinion, no. I've been wrong with NVIDIA before. It is a huge powerhouse stock. They're a great company, great industry. Like I said, I've been wrong with NVIDIA before, but in my opinion, they're just overextended. And, you know, to keep up the momentum until July 20th, that's a pretty long time to keep up this type of momentum.
Yeah, it is. And that if it continued like having this type of movement all the way till July 20th, we might end up at 1,000 a share. So I would definitely say that it would end up coming down as well. And I think that maybe like this type of pullback that we're starting to see here will be the beginning of maybe like a couple week downtrend. And then I think right before the split, I think people are going to rush into Nvidia again and drive it back up. But I think that we will definitely come down for a few days before people like get driven back in to buy it up, because it's honestly hard for people to buy it up here at 760 a share.
All righty. And then Click saying, is it a good time to enter NVIDIA? like Tom said, I think we will see a little pullback. Justin said AMC were the 57 puts. Do you know what expiration those were, Justin? Because I definitely want to check out that unusual options activity. We have I'm Fear saying Fubo has a nice run just now. Let's check it out. So yeah, I think it looks pretty good overall. Looks pretty solid. The next resistance is at like $40 or so. A little bit of resistance at like 35, but I think it looks pretty good.
Yeah, that 35 level honestly is starting to scare me, especially with a lot of these other stocks like hitting those resistances and coming down. It does scare me a little bit in the short term, but for some reason Fubo is like really outperforming a lot of those other stocks today, moving up very nicely. So hopefully they can just continue to outperform and just continue to break out. I know it's been looking very nice, and I don't know who asked the question, Mike.
We have I'm Fierce.
Oh, I'm Fierce. Yeah, I was gonna say because Vicky's always asking about it. So if Vicky's still holding it, it would have been a pretty good swing for like the past couple weeks.
There we go. And then I'm just checking out these options on AMC. Yep, this was it. Justin got it right. So I was looking for the AMC puts, and Justin pointed out that it was the 57 puts for next week. So thank you for this, Justin. It looks like a ton of smart money bought in yesterday when these puts were trading for around like 650 each. Right now they're going for about like 655 each. So I'm going to save this real quick. But yeah, smart money's still holding those put options. Thank you for pointing that out. One thing to keep in mind is like this person might have a ton of AMC shares and they can be buying these puts for insurance. So just keep that in mind. And then we have Jorge saying crowd has been consolidating above 250 at all-time highs, getting ready for a shot up soon. Please don't fall below 250. Let's check it out. CRWD, it looks, yeah, it's right at that all-time high. Resistance at 260 or so. If I'm going to be completely honest with you, it looks like we might pull back a little bit, especially with the way the market's moving, but I hope I'm wrong.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely looks like it could do that. And whenever we look in the past, you can see how sometimes it starts to shoot up and then it gets a couple red days and then does end up pulling back. So just be a little careful with it. I think it could definitely start to come down, maybe retest that like 240 support or something like that. Not like a huge drop down or anything, but just a little pullback.
All righty. And then let's see. All right. So that's all the comments. Tom, do you have anything you're watching? Any like last minute things? Anything you're watching? I know that the market had an interesting day so far. We've been seeing a little bit of selling pressure, especially with tech stocks. Microsoft got beaten down a little bit. It's bouncing. So we're just seeing like some interesting movement. We're seeing this negative momentum, but it's not quite like a big sell off. It's more of like a pullback. So like, what are you watching?
Yeah, I mean, Microsoft had a pretty bad day, came right down to that 265 support. Definitely bounced off of that. Let's go check out like AMD. I mean, I've been really like looking at AMD the past couple of days. They had that deal with Google yesterday that really made them start to fly up. And man, that was the stock to trade yesterday. That thing just kept flying up intraday, having great moves pretty much straight up all day long. Very small consolidation areas, and almost all morning, all the way up to like 11 a.m. Eastern time, ended up just moving straight up. But today it looks like it's pulling back pretty hard with a lot of those other stocks, which is unfortunate to see. And I just wanted to kind of talk about the pullback because we're seeing it across the board. It seems like a lot of these growth stocks are pulling back today. It seems like Fubo is like one of the only exceptions that is actually still breaking up through those types of levels. But it seems like the rest are kind of just consolidating, like Palantir consolidating, coming down, Zoom consolidating, coming down, DraftKings actually coming up a little bit. Looks like they're actually turning around a little bit today, which is nice to see. But for the most part, most of these growth stocks are kind of hitting and moving back to the downside. We have RUN doing that as well. And it's just one of those like weird things here where like all those stocks are right around resistance. So we're either going to see a pretty solid break, I think, out to the upside, or we're going to see continued, consolidation here for like the next few days. But just keep in mind, like holding over the weekend might get pretty risky around these levels. You might wake up, Monday morning and the stocks might have gapped up or something pre-market, or you might wake up and they gap down off these resistances. I just think it's going to be a little bit of a coin flip right here. So just keep that in mind going forward as you guys are like holding things through the weekend here. But just be a little careful and The good news is though is that the overall market's looking decent. We had the SPY running up to all-time highs earlier, and it's actually like right around those right now. So seems like the overall market though is doing very well.
All righty. And then we have Carlos saying, hey guys, my stock Baba is up again. There we go. We like Baba, and we love how it's uptrending. We have Sean saying, hey Mike and Tom, woke up late, but could you look at my favorite stock, Nvidia and Netflix? So Nvidia, personally, I think it's a little bit overbought, and I think Tom feels pretty similar about it. They do have that split though, so it's definitely a powerhouse, and anything can happen. Netflix, let's take a look at Netflix. Yeah, I mean, in my opinion, it's just not worth the trade right now, to be honest. Like, it's a little bit, like, not as much as Nvidia, but it's a little bit overbought, in tech selling off just a little bit right now. So I'm just kind of neutral on Netflix. Tom, do you have any thoughts on either of those two?
Yeah, I mean, Nvidia, you hit it right on the head. I think it's due to kind of come down for like the next maybe like week or the next few days. I think it will start to go up though again closer to the split time, but keep in mind the split's still like just under a month away, about like 25 days away or 26 days away. So just keep that in mind. Netflix is like right in the middle of its range. So like Mike said, it wasn't a good setup like earlier in the week, like on Monday and Tuesday. It was looking pretty decent, but now that we have all this movement, we've kind of filled this gap already. It could go up like another couple points, but I just, it's definitely going to be a more riskier of a trade, especially right now. So personally, I would honestly look at maybe just honestly Netflix. I would be more neutral on. If anything with Nvidia, I might look at puts on that one, but it's definitely hard to trade puts on that. I would not swing them by any means. It would just be a very quick scalp.
All right, we have Hunter saying, Tommy Tenders, LIVX is like Sirius XM, but in all Teslas at purchase. So I think that's pretty interesting. I didn't even know that. LIVX. I'm
Yeah,
definitely
Hunter
gonna take a
told me
look.
about it one other time, and that's actually really interesting. And on the daily, it actually is moving very well off the 100, so it could be a good buy, especially with it being into Teslas like that.
All right. And we have Justin saying, do you think weed stocks are towards the bottom to buy tons of shares of? I live in Montana and like the Canadian companies, as once it's legalized federally, I think they will explode with being able to go across the border. So I like them right now. Like, they're so tricky to trade though. Like, they'll have a nice update and then they'll sell off the next day and then they'll have a huge update the next day and then they'll, so it's choppy to trade and no one knows the bottom. But I do like the setup right now. Tilray, CRON, you could say APHA. So yeah, I mean, or actually that one looks like it stopped trading. But there's a lot of different ones you can go out. You can even get the MJ ETF. But I do like the setup right now. We have Queen asking about Wish. Let's take a look. Yeah, it's popping up a little bit. Do you have any thoughts on this one, Tom?
Yeah, Wish is actually looking really good on the daily. There's obviously that key resistance around $15, but man, it looks like it's gonna start ripping here on this daily chart. Yeah, a couple days ago when it started to go red, it wasn't looking very good, but with that recovery that we saw yesterday, it's starting to look pretty hot. And I would think if it can break that high of day around 1490 or even 15, then I think we'll start to see another good move. But definitely make it break first. But I'll be honest, this looks like a really solid setup, and if it can start to run above that resistance, we might start to see a pretty decent move. And people have been talking about Wish for like a short squeeze and stuff like that, and I think it definitely has some potential to it.
All right. And then we have Johnny saying, what do you think of Square? I am waiting for a dip further. Seems overextended, maybe. Let's take a look. Said Square. Yeah, I mean, you could say a little bit overextended. I think we could probably retest like 230 or so. They're a solid company, though. I think they're good for the long term. And we have Mike asking about VIAC. They had a pretty good week so far. I like the way they're moving. I know that they had a little bit of selling pressure at open, but they're holding their ground and getting pretty close to breaking that resistance of yesterday, right around 43.23. So, yeah, thank you guys so much for joining the stream. We have a pretty interesting day so far, but looks like the SPY is breaking that high of day, which is bringing a lot of stocks up, and it's actually dragging the QQQ up. So we're definitely in for an interesting day. The market's had a pretty good week overall, and the market's just trending in the right direction, and it's breaking new highs. So I definitely can't complain. But thank you guys so much for joining Tom and I today. Thanks for asking great questions, and thanks for just being here and supporting us. We really appreciate it, and we hope you have an amazing weekend.